Chicago's very own 9 o'clock news.
Well, good evening, and it is now all over. Richard M. Daley has been elected mayor of Chicago to a post his late father had held for 21 years. No concession comments yet from rival candidate Tim Evans, but Republican Ed Verdoliak has just thrown in the towel. Let's go now to Verdoliak campaign headquarters and join Bob Jordan for this live report. Bob?
Microphone, but I apologize in particular.
Thank you, Rick. Alderman Verdoliak has just come back to the microphone to give us a few more words, and since he's here now, let's listen to what he has to say at this point.
In every way, shape, or form, former Alderman Sammy Rayner. Sammy, where are you, Sam? Without Sam Rayner, we'd have never got it started. Thank you so very, very much, Sam Rayner. When everybody said we couldn't win in the write-in, Sam Rayner said we could. Thank you very much, Sam. You're the best. Thank you.
Anytime we talk to you for a quick second. Well, he's just said he's just getting ready to go south at this point. And but right now we do have a tape of what he said to his supporters when he came here earlier this evening, and we'll go to that tape now and hear what he had to say.
We discussed many of the problems of Chicago, which are here today, and hopefully will start to be solved tomorrow. In fact, we brought forth many solutions to those problems. Many of those solutions found their way into the platforms and positions of some of the other candidates, and that's terrific, because no one has a monopoly on ideas or solutions. And if all of us, in fact, are really for the best interests of all the people of Chicago and their best interests, and to solve the problems for those who need help the most, then we've run a great campaign, and I thank you for all your help.
Alderman Verdoliak also said that he was throwing his support to Richard Daley, and he asked all his supporters to do so as well. He stressed the importance of healing the city to make it work for the next 2 years. But he also said that we've just begun. It's not over. That may be a hint that we haven't seen the last of Ed Verdoliak, that after the two-year term is up, he may run again. Of course, he had nothing to say about that for sure at this point. Back to you, Rick and Pat. We'll have more of this later.
All right, Bob, thank you. Well, Richard M. Daley holds a commanding lead in this special election for mayor, and he's long since been declared the winner by all three major networks and Associated Press and UPI. Turnout in the city, 68% today. That was about 8 points above the turnout in the primary, but still far below the surge to the polls, the street heat, as they were calling it, that independent Tim Evans had needed if he was to win. This was another quiet election, only a few complaints of voting irregularities. 11 of the city's 2,911 precinct polling places did stay open 1 hour late this evening after opening late this morning. Pat?
Well, all the returns aren't in quite as yet, but we know that Richard Daley's campaign was looking for a 52% margin of victory over the other two candidates. And in looking at 78% of the precincts reporting, we see Richard Daley with 60% of the vote, Tim Evans 36%, and Verdoliak trailing with 4% of the vote. News analyst Joel Wiseman joins us at the news desk now. Joel, we understand that Verdoliak lost his own ward by, what, 2-1?
Well, with about 3/4 of the vote in, he's trailing 2-1 to Daley, which is somewhat humiliating for Verdoliak, but of course he's running as a Republican, and that is a long tradition that he helped establish as a Democratic ward. What's incredible here is that those massive pluralities that Daley got in the primary in the southwest side, for instance, actually were increased by some real muscle men like Congressman Lipinski and Assessor Tom Hines and Eddie Burke, and on the northwest side, Committeeman Banks. And all these guys were able to get 80% or greater of their registered voters to the polls.
And what's in it for them, Joel? That's got to be something to be decided.
One of the first things that everybody's talking about what's in it for is what's in it for the guy who succeeds Rich Daley. And all these committeemen are abuzz tonight about who the successor to Daley should be for state's attorney. And one of the things that Daley's got to, of course, carefully consider is perhaps appointing a black like Cecil Partee to that post. Joel, we'll talk more about that later.
We certainly will. Right now, Joel, we're going to go to the Tim Evans campaign headquarters where our Steve Sanders is standing by live. Maybe Evans is ready to concede right now. Steve?
Joining us here now is Tim Evans' campaign manager, Ernest Bearfield. Mr. Bearfield, you are still clinging to the fervent hope that somehow Mr. Evans can pull off a victory.
Yes, we are. Most of the precincts that are still out are black precincts. there are places where we are hopeful that we'll get a high number of votes, and that we have the possibility for closing. It's a very slim hope, but we still have it.
What is the strategy there, that some of the South Side wards might have stayed open late, that many black voters, large numbers of them, are voting late, have voted late?
Well, I think it's primarily that many of black voters are voting late. There were about 11 precincts that were opened late. I don't think that necessarily would be overwhelming in and of itself in terms of offering a possibility. But we were hopeful and are hopeful that the votes that come in the South and West Side precincts late will be sufficient to close the gap.
Some have said that would be a miracle. Would you characterize it as that?
Well, I think that everybody has been kind of praying for a miracle. We've had somewhat of a miracle campaign because we've run it without any money, and whatever we get, we're thankful for.
Very briefly, some of the exit polls indicated that Tim Evans did not do very well in those very crucial lakefront wards, did not do well in the swing vote that was so crucial to Harold Washington's 2 victories in '83 and '87. Does that surprise you?
Well, not really. I mean, we had some indication that we were not going to do nearly as well as, say, Harold Washington or had done in previous elections. But then again, those percentages really had not been overwhelming in terms of the makeup of what constituted Harold Washington's victory. It really was predicated on an extraordinarily high black turnout, aided and assisted by lakefront support and Hispanic support. We counted on getting some of that, perhaps not in the same numbers that had been received by Harold Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Bearfield. And of course, regardless of what happens, the campaigning begins anew for the 1991 race tomorrow. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Steve. Well, as we all heard, the Tim Evans campaign is still praying for a miracle, but if we go by the numbers from all of the news organizations in Chicago, it looks like Richard Daley has won this race.
Oh, yeah, I think rather handily.
So now, what goes on with the state's attorney's office?
Well, first of all, they have to decide how much of the term gets filled out by the person who's appointed, and that appointment will be made by the county board. Will that person only serve until the next regular election, which would be in 1990, and then have to run again? If he has to run again, who do they appoint? Who might be the strongest candidate countywide? In light of the fact that Daley does not appear to have done particularly well in the black wards, even though he spent a good deal of time campaigning there, and his theme is that he wants to be a mayor for all people, a lot of committeemen are urging him to appoint Cecil Partee or some other black to that office, perhaps someone like John Stroger. The downside to that is, can that person win countywide? Of course, another viable candidate for that post, and many thought the reason he dropped out of the mayor's race, would be Eddie Burke. But someone says that if you appoint Burke, you lose a golden opportunity to build a bridge to the black community. So that's what a lot of the political talk is tonight as we digest some of these statistics.
Never, ever dull, is it?
No, we're already talking about another office and another election on the night of this election.
Let me interrupt for a moment and swing over to the man of the hour, Richard M. Daley, who has been elected the new mayor of the city of Chicago. Our Jim Williams is standing by at the Hyatt Regency Chicago downtown. That's Daley headquarters. Jim, what is the latest there?
Well, it is not yet official, but the celebration here at the Hyatt Regency Hotel, site of the Daley celebration, the celebration has begun. More than 4,000 people are expected to be here by the end of the night for what should be a victory celebration. Now, earlier, upstairs in one of the suites, Richard Daley gathered to watch the election returns with his family, about 35 family members, including his wife, children, his brothers and sisters, and his mother, Sis Daley, the widow of the late mayor. And we are joined by one of the Daley family members. This is Bill Daley, who is not only the candidate's brother, but he is a key advisor as well. Mr. Daley, what is the mood upstairs in the Daley family suite?
It's very good. Everyone's very excited about this for Rich and for Maggie. And we're very thrilled that the people have honored him with that possibility of being mayor for the next 2 years.
People have talked about the value of the Daley name. Ed Burke said when he dropped out of the mayor's race that you can't beat that Daley name. But aside from the Daley name, how did you pull this off?
Well, Rich went out and campaigned in every community, had a message that he stuck with, didn't get diverted, didn't get into personal attacks, personal campaigning, or rhetoric. and he basically went out there with a message that I think the people responded to.
It is a substantial victory, but his support in the black community apparently is very low. He is only getting 5 or 6% support in the black community, yet he campaigned throughout the black community. Is that a disturbing sign to you?
Well, I think it's a sign that people have seen for a while in Chicago, but what was encouraging to Rich was the kindness and the courtesy and the encouragement that he received from people throughout this community, even people throughout the city. Even people who weren't supporting him were very kind to him throughout the city when he campaigned. And I think there's a tone even amongst those people who wouldn't support him of, okay, let's get about doing this job. People who were for Tim Evans, you know, that's fine. If you're, as Rick said throughout this campaign, before somebody, don't be against somebody.
Considering Tim Evans, do you expect him to lead a very active opposition in the city council? Could we have council wars in reverse?
Oh, I don't think anyone wants to go back to that, but Tim Evans represents his ward and has always done a good job, and I'm sure he'll, as he has said throughout this campaign, he's for Chicago, not trying to be disruptive.
We are going to talk to your brother a little bit later tonight after he delivers what should be a victory speech, but what can we expect from Richard M. Daley when he takes off?
I think you're going to see, you can expect what he said he will deliver on: competence, strong leadership, and a mayor who will be fair to all people throughout the city.
What would your dad say about this?
I would hope that he would feel pretty good about it.
Thank you, Bill Daley. Reporting live from the Daley headquarters, I'm Jim Williams. We'll be back for Richard Daley's victory statement.
And just so you know, it's not speculation or idle speculation, I should say, on our part. The latest numbers that we have, 78% of the vote tallied. Daley out in front, 60%. Tim Evans, 36%. Ed Verdoliak, who's already conceded, 4% of the tally that we have available.
And, of course, we said earlier, there are several suburban races to be decided tonight and a race for 6th Ward Alderman. We have some news that already there may be a possible recount. So we'll have more on that race and more on the general election after this break. Stay with us.
Why do fools fall in love?
Why?
So they don't have to eat alone. Steve Martin.
Where are you?
Desperate.
Want to go to dinner?
I'm a man.
Dateless.
Could you turn out the spotlight, please?
Certainly.
Dining alone. He used to be a jerk.
Your things are going.
Now he's a lonely guy.
At the sound of the tone, please forget me.
Thursday night at 7 on Channel 9.
And then I walk out on the stage. You know what I'm saying? In my black tie Davis. I walk out on stage, got my trombone, black trombone too, you see. And I walk out, and everybody would cheer. And I start playing, and I see the look in the eyes of joy. This is my band we talking about, because I'm going to be the boss this time. It just be music, 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 all the time.
For man is true for machines. Starting the day right can make a difference. For power and performance, drive your engine clean with Mobile Super Unleaded Plus. Hot food for cars.
Got a little bit of fuzz? Get the Clothes Shaver Junior. It's free when you buy the Clothes Shaver Plus in the Sears Clothes Shaver Combo Pack. The larger head and rotating blades of the Clothes Shaver Plus shave off fills and fuzz from most any fabric, cord or cordless. Makes it easy for upholstery, even drapes. Buy the Clothes Shaver Plus and get the Clothes Shaver Junior as a bonus. The Sears Clothes Shaver Combo Pack by Windmere. Only at Sears.
There's a lot of concern about the U.S. trade deficit. It became a problem because items such as foreign luxury cars were considered a good value by Americans. Yet today, the facts are very different. Foreign car prices have skyrocketed, and American quality has never been higher. Yet Americans still spend billions of dollars on foreign luxury cars. The bottom line, if you're in the market for a luxury car, you can be part of the solution or part of the problem.
You can have this beautiful brand name carpeting in your home tomorrow if you call Lincoln today.
National tonight.
As we continue our election night coverage, let's take a look at the latest figures that we have in the race for mayor of Chicago, where Richard M. Daley has long since been declared the victor. These unofficial numbers, but will be fairly close, we expect, to the final tally. The numbers are going to come up. It's not going to be anywhere nearly this widespread, but with 78% of the precincts reporting Richard Daley, 60%, Tim Evans, 36%, and Edward Doliak around 4% of the tally that we have, almost 80% now in.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, there's also one aldermanic election tonight in Chicago. It's a runoff for election in the 6th Ward, and that is necessary because out of a race of 4 in the primary, neither of the candidates or none of the candidates got a 50% plus 1 vote. So the primary had to go into a runoff, and as we see, with 28% of the precincts reporting, incumbent Ronald Robinson and Sawyer supporter has 50%, and John Steele and Evans supporter has 50%. Now, Joel Wiseman, you said earlier that this could be decided by 50 votes?
Commissioner Jagelski over at the election board says it's running so neck and neck, it's headed for a recount. They're within about 14 votes of one another, with about 60% of the vote now counted. It's a real bitter feud. As you know, Robinson was Sawyer's appointee, right, and Sawyer had a lot of trouble in his own ward for some reason, and yet, as we look around in the mayoral race, we see that Sawyer did better in a lot of these white wards than Evans did. But he's having trouble in his home ward carrying his own guy.
That wasn't really surprising, though, right, for Sawyer to do better in the white wards than Tim Evans?
Well, somewhat surprising in some of the particular wards. I mean, he very comfortably outdistanced Evans along the lakefront, for instance, where Evans did try to mount some kind of a campaign, and he also did approximately as well in the Hispanic community.
Now, people keep talking about Gene Sawyer and his renaissance and some future political office. If he keeps having trouble in the 6th Ward, what does this say about his political future?
I think it's pretty good. I think Sawyer will be one of the bridges that Daley will want to use to the black community, and maybe back perhaps for Congress or some later county office, perhaps even given some city office. There's a lot of possibilities for Sawyer.
They were saying that Eugene Sawyer became a folk hero after he lost.
That's true. I think he's probably more popular in defeat than he was in city council victory.
Yeah, but sure. Is there a message in that?
that you have to be a loser to be a winner? I don't know.
That maybe he's better off in retirement.
No, I don't think so. I think he'll serve, continue to serve in government, and has gotten a relatively favorable and, of course, much wider spread public image.
You mentioned the Hispanic vote earlier. Do we have any numbers for, especially Luis Gutierrez's ward, the 26th ward?
I'm glad you asked. I talked to Luis earlier tonight, and he is extremely happy. He was able to increase his margin for Daley and increase his turnout, because, as you know, those Hispanic wards were under 50% in the primary. Now they seem to be well over 50 and towards 60.
Joel, we seem to have David Axelrod, head of Richard Daley's campaign, available to speak to us now. He's at the Hyatt.
Let's go to Daley.
Yeah, let's go to Daley headquarters with Jim Williams. Jim?
David Axelrod played a big role in the Daley campaign. He is a political consultant, a former reporter here in Chicago. You have seen the numbers. Has the support for Richard Daley exceeded your expectations?
I think by a wide margin. We were hopeful that we could break 50%, which is a big victory in a three-way race. Now it looks like we can exceed that by several percentage points, and I think it's a great night for us.
And yet the support in the black community for Daley apparently is very low, maybe 5 or 6%. He campaigned throughout the black community. But does that bother you?
Well, obviously it bothers me, and that we would like to get the votes of all citizens. But I think that the reception he got in the black community was warm. I think the black community is going to give him a fair hearing, and to see if the representations he made over the course of the campaign are genuine. And I think they'll find that they are, and perhaps the story will be a little bit different next time.
Throughout the campaign, he continually talked about reaching out to all communities. Specifically, David, how does he do that after he's inaugurated?
Well, I think that he does that through the appointments he makes.
I think he does that through his support for things like the minority contract set-aside program, minority business set-aside program. I think he does that by working on the problems that ail the black community, such as schools and drugs and crime and jobs. And so I think he's got some very definite things that he can and will do to prove to the black community that they're full partners in this administration.
Has he talked to you about who he might appoint to some key jobs in his administration?
Excuse me?
Has he talked to you about who he might appoint to some key jobs in his administration?
Listen, a campaign like this is a major undertaking. Those of us who are working on the campaign concentrated on the campaign. There are others working on the transition, and I'm sure that they've given that some thought. But we didn't take anything for granted, and the real work begins tomorrow morning.
I will ask you what I asked Bill Daley, Rich Daley's brother. Tim Evans, his primary opponent in this campaign. Do you expect him to lead the opposition in the city council?
I don't know. I think that that's up to him, but what we would hope is that you can be an opponent, a political opponent, but also work constructively together with someone on issues. And I think Tim Evans wants to see this city move forward. I would hope that he works constructively with the new mayor to see to it that all of Chicago moves forward, including the black community. And I'm hopeful that he will. I know Tim for a long time. I think he cares a lot about this city.
Political consultant David Axelrod, congratulations. A key member of the Daley team. Rick and Pat, back to you.
And a busy night at Daley campaign headquarters down at the Hyatt.
It certainly is, Rick. Now, ballots are also being cast tonight to elect local officials in Chicago suburbs, and we'll take a look at some of those races now, beginning with Oak Park, where candidates there are trying to replace Clifford Osborne, who decided not to seek a second term, with 47% of the precincts reporting John Philbin with a comfortable lead of 74% to Susan Helfer with 26%. Moving on to Arlington Heights, all of these candidates are independents, with 60% of the precincts reporting William Mackey is out front with 40%, Edith Jolly 33%, and Diane Siles behind with 27%. And on to Evanston, where they are electing a mayor with 20% of the precincts reporting Joan Barr, the Republican incumbent, with almost a 2-to-1 margin over John Norwood, the Democrat, 62% to 38%.
In Cicero tonight, where they are electing a town president, about two-thirds of the precincts are reporting, a little under that, and incumbent Republican Mayor Henry Klozak appears well on his way to being re-elected village president in Cicero. The margin there 78 to 22. In suburban Des Plaines, where they are electing a mayor, a fistful of candidates there, and with about 70% of the precincts tallied, the person out in front is a police detective, Mike Albrecht. He's got 54%. The rest are trailing the field by a substantial margin. In suburban Elmhurst, 3 candidates with half the precincts reporting. Abner Gannett is out in front, a former mayor trying to make a return to office there, and he's out in front with a narrow margin over Charles Garages and Robert Quinn trailing that field. And in Calumet City, the race for mayor there with 100% now. This is a final report, therefore. Robert Stefaniak, the longtime incumbent mayor, has been re-elected by a significant margin over Dom Gigliotti.
And we'll have further election returns from suburban races later in the news hour.
Indeed we shall. There is other news to share with you this evening, and let's move to some of that now. As Chicago Health Commissioner Lonnie Edwards has handed in his letter of resignation today. It goes into effect when the new mayor takes office, we expect in about 3 weeks. Edwards headed the city's public health department for 5 years, but most recently was attacked for not effectively handling the problems of AIDS and infant mortality here in the city. Edwards' days had been numbered for some weeks. Each of the 3 mayoral candidates during the campaign promised they would fire Edwards if they were elected mayor. Well, friends of convicted murderer William Herons are pushing for his release today. Herons has spent more than 4 decades in prison for 3 particularly brutal murders, among them the dismemberment killing of a 6-year-old girl. Muriel Clare reports this 28th request for parole frightens the victim's family.
The Prison Review Board has said no again and again to William Hiron's request for parole. Now he's seeking clemency, and some people are hoping the board will not recommend it.
The crime that was committed was so atrocious, and the total lack of demonstration of rehabilitation for the problem that he had back then, which has never been identified with any definite.